The stars looked cold and distant through the viewing window of the mining ship. Captain Daeho Kim stood with his hands behind his back, watching the asteroid field slowly drift past. His ship, the Cheonsa's Hope, had been out here for 3 months now, collecting rare metals from the rocks that floated in the darkness. It was boring work, but it paid well. His daughter Jeanine was waiting for him back home on Earth, and every credit he earned meant a better future for her. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," called out Minji Choi from the pilot's seat. Her young face looked worried in the blue light from the control panels. "There's a distress signal coming from the next sector." Daeho walked over to look at her screen. The signal was weak, barely there at all, like a whisper in a storm. But it was definitely real. More than that, the scanners showed something else. Life signs. Very faint but alive. "It could be pirates trying to trap us," said Tae-sung Lee, the ship's engineer. He was a careful man who always thought about the dangers first. "We should report it and move on." Dr. Hana Park looked up from her research station. She was Daeho's wife, though they tried to keep things professional on the ship. Her eyes were bright with curiosity. Or it could be someone who really needs help. "Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Help people?" Daeho thought about it for a moment. The rules said they should report it and wait for a proper rescue team. But the rules also said that the life signs were too weak to wait. If someone was dying out there, they would be dead long before help arrived. "Set a course," he said finally, "but keep the shields up and weapons ready. If this is a trap, we run." The ship moved through the asteroid field like a fish swimming through rocks. Minji was a good pilot, maybe the best Daeho had ever worked with. She guided them around the floating mountains of stone without even breaking a sweat. After 20 minutes, they found it. The alien ship was huge, much bigger than their small mining vessel. But it was dead. No lights, no power, nothing. It spun slowly in space, damaged and broken. Part of the hull had been torn open, and Daeho could see the twisted metal inside. "That's not human technology," Hana said quietly. She was already running scans, her fingers flying over the controls. "I've never seen anything like this design. It's completely unknown." "The life sign is coming from inside," Minji reported. Deep in the center of the ship, Daeho made his decision. "Tae-sung, Hana, you're with me. Minji, you stay here and keep the engines warm. If anything goes wrong, you leave without us." "That's an order." Minji didn't like that, but she nodded. She knew better than to argue with the captain when he used that tone. The three of them suited up and crossed over to the alien ship through a damaged airlock. Inside, everything was dark except for their helmet lights. The corridors were strange, built for creatures that were definitely not human. The walls curved in odd ways and the doors were the wrong shape. They found bodies, alien bodies dead for months. Hana scanned them carefully, her scientific mind working even in this creepy place. "These creatures died from weapons fire," she said. "This wasn't an accident. This was an attack." They moved deeper into the ship, following the life sign on their scanners. Finally, they found a room that looked like a laboratory. Equipment was smashed and broken everywhere. Strange devices lay scattered on the floor. And in the center of the room, sitting on a platform, was something that glowed. It was an egg. At least that's what it looked like. It was as big as a man's chest, made of something that looked like crystal. Colors moved inside it, swirling and dancing. Blue, green, purple, gold. Beautiful and strange. "The life sign is coming from inside that," Tae-sung said, pointing at the egg. Hana moved closer, her scanner beeping rapidly. "Whatever's in there is alive, but barely. The stasis field around it is failing. In a few more hours it will be dead. Should we take it?" Tae-sung asked. "We don't know what it is. Could be dangerous." Before anyone could answer, the egg began to crack. A thin line appeared on the surface and light spilled out. Then another crack and another. The sound was like ice breaking on a frozen lake. "Everyone back," Daeho ordered. But Hana didn't move. She stood there watching with wonder as the egg broke open. What came out was small, about the size of a cat. It had scales that shimmered with rainbow colors changing as it moved. 4 legs, a long tail, and wings that looked too small to fly with. Multiple eyes, 6 of them, blinking in the light from their helmets. Its head was shaped like a triangle, and small horns grew from its skull. It looked like a dragon from the old Earth stories. A baby dragon. The creature made a sound, something between a chirp and a musical note. It stumbled on weak legs, fell, and tried to get up again. One of its wings was bent wrong, probably injured. It looked at them with those strange eyes, and Daeho saw something in them. Fear, pain, and a desperate hope. It's hurt, Hana whispered. She moved slowly, carefully, and knelt down. The little dragon watched her but didn't run. Maybe it was too weak to run. Maybe it understood that she was trying to help. We can't take an unknown alien creature onto our ship, Taesung said. It's against every regulation in the book. Then throw away the book, Hana said sharply. She reached out very slowly and touched the dragon's head. It made that musical sound again, softer this time. This is a baby. It's scared and alone. I'm not leaving it here to die. Daeho looked at the small creature. He thought about Jeanine, his daughter, waiting at home. What would she say if she knew he left something helpless to die in the dark? She would be disappointed in him, and he would be disappointed in himself. Bring it, he said. Taesung started to protest, but Daeho held up his hand. We save it. We figure out what to do with it later, but we don't leave living things to die. That's not who we are. Hana carefully picked up the dragon. It was lighter than she expected, and it curled against her chest, seeking warmth. She wrapped it in a thermal blanket from her emergency kit. As they explored the laboratory, Hana found a computer that still had some power. She downloaded everything she could from its memory. The words were in an alien language, but the ship's computer could try to translate it later. They were about to leave when alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the dead ship. Taesung checked his scanner and his face went pale. The ship's defense systems just activated. We've got automated drones coming this way, and they're armed. They ran through the twisted corridors back toward their ship, the sound of machine guns echoing behind them. Minji saw them coming and brought the Cheonce's hope as close as she dared. They jumped across the gap between ships, and Taesung was the last one through. A drone appeared at the airlock just as the door sealed shut. Go, 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 Taiho shouted. Minji's hands flew over the controls, and the ship shot forward into the asteroid field. Drones followed them, firing bright weapons that lit up the darkness. The ship shook as something hit the shields, then something strange happened. The baby dragon in Hana's arms began to glow. Not bright, just a soft light that pulsed in rhythm. And suddenly Minji's hands on the controls became very steady. Her face, which had been tight with stress, relaxed. She flew through the asteroids like she was dancing, like she could see exactly where each rock would be before it got there. The drones couldn't keep up. One by one, they crashed into the asteroids or fell behind. Soon, the Cheonce's hope was safe, racing away into deep space. In the medical bay, Hana examined the little dragon carefully. It was malnourished and injured, but it would survive. She needed to give it a name. Something special. She thought about an old word she had heard once. From a Russian fairy tale her grandmother told her. Labaroviski. It meant mysterious gift. Welcome to the crew, Labaroviski, she whispered to the sleeping dragon. On the bridge, Daeho watched the translation of the alien files appear on his screen. His blood ran cold as he read the words. This creature, this dragon species, had a special ability. They could enter dreams. They could move through the sleeping minds of other beings. And some very bad aliens had been trying to use them as weapons. He looked at his crew, at his wife holding the dragon, and made a decision. They would protect this creature, no matter what came next. He had no idea that this small choice would change everything for humanity and for the galaxy itself. 3 months had passed since they found Labaroviski on that dead alien ship. The journey back to Earth was long, but it gave them time to care for the little dragon. Hana worked every day to heal its injured wing and help it grow stronger. Taesung built a special room where Labaroviski could rest safely. Minji would play simple games with it, rolling a ball across the floor while the dragon chased after it with growing confidence. But it was the bond that surprised everyone. Labaroviski seemed to understand them. When they spoke, the dragon would tilt its head and listen. Its 6 eyes would focus with real intelligence. And sometimes, late at night, crew members would report having the most peaceful dreams they had ever experienced. Dreams where they felt safe and protected. Daeho stood at the airlock as Earth grew larger in the viewing window. Home. After 8 long months in space, he would finally see his daughter again. His heart ached thinking about how much Jeanine must have grown. She was 7 years old now, and every day away from her felt like a small wound. The ship landed at the Seoul spaceport on a bright morning. The city stretched out below them, massive towers of glass and steel reaching toward the sky. Flying cars moved between the buildings like schools of fish. It was so different from the cold silence of space. Grandmother Sunja Kim was waiting for them at the landing platform, holding Jeanine's hand. The old woman stood straight and proud in her traditional hanbok, even though she was 71 years old. Jeanine wore a bright yellow dress and bounced on her toes with excitement. When Dae-ho came down the ramp, Jeanine broke free from her grandmother's grip and ran to him. He caught her and lifted her up, spinning her around while she laughed. Hana joined them, and for a moment they were just a family again, holding each other tight. "Did you bring me a present?" Jeanine asked, her eyes wide with hope. Dae-ho laughed. "Actually, yes, but it's a very special present, one that needs love and care." "Is it a pet?" Jeanine gasped. "Please tell me it's a pet." "Something like that," Hana said with a smile. "But first we need to talk about it. Come aboard the ship." They walked back up the ramp together. Grandmother Sunja followed, moving slowly but with dignity. She had been skeptical when Dae-ho called to tell her about Labaroviski, but she had agreed to wait and see before judging. In the special room Tai-sung had built, Labaroviski was sleeping on a soft mat. The dragon had grown in 3 months. Now it was the size of a large dog, with scales that gleamed like oil on water, showing every color of the rainbow when the light hit them right. The small wings had healed and grown bigger, though still not large enough for flight. Jeanine stopped in the doorway, her mouth falling open. "Is that a dragon?" she whispered. "We think so," Hana said softly. "Its name is Labaroviski. We found it all alone and hurt, so we saved it." The dragon's eyes opened, all 6 of them focusing on Jeanine. For a long moment, girl and dragon just stared at each other. Then Labaroviski made a sound like wind chimes singing in a gentle breeze. It stood up slowly and walked toward Jeanine. "Is it safe?" Grandmother Sunja asked, her hand moving protectively toward her granddaughter. "Completely safe," Hana assured her. "Labaroviski has never shown any aggression. Only gentleness." Jeanine knelt down, making herself small and non-threatening. The dragon came close and sniffed her hand. Then it did something that made everyone's breath catch. It gently pressed its head against Jeanine's palm, just like a cat asking to be petted. A smile spread across Jeanine's face, bright as sunshine. She carefully stroked the dragon's scales, and they were warm under her fingers. Labaroviski made that wind chime sound again, and Jeanine giggled. "Hello, Labaroviski," she said. "I'm Jeanine. We're going to be best friends." The dragon's tail wagged. That afternoon, Hana's brother Hyunwoo Park arrived at their apartment. He was a government liaison for xenobiology, which meant he dealt with all the legal issues around alien life forms. He was a serious man with glasses and a tablet computer that never left his hand. "You can't just bring an unknown alien creature to Earth," he said, though there was no anger in his voice, just tiredness. "There are protocols, quarantine procedures, security concerns." "We followed medical quarantine on the ship," Hana argued. "Labaroviski is completely healthy and poses no biological threat." "That's not the point," Hyunwoo said. He looked at where Jeanine was sitting on the floor, reading a picture book to Labaroviski, who seemed to be listening intently. "The government wants to study it. There's a research facility that would be perfect for this creature." "No," Dae-ho said flatly. "Labaroviski is not going to any facility. This dragon is a person, not a specimen. It thinks, it feels, it understands. We're not handing it over to be poked and prodded." Hyunwoo sighed and rubbed his temples. "You're making this very difficult." "Good," Grandmother Sunja said from her chair in the corner. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. The old woman set down her teacup. "In the old stories from Korea, we had guardians, spirit protectors who watched over families. I see how that dragon looks at Jeanine. I see how Jeanine smiles for the first time in months. That dragon stays with this family." Hyunwoo looked at his mother, then at his sister, then at Dae-ho. Finally, he looked at Jeanine and Labaroviski together. The dragon had curled around the little girl protectively, and she was leaning against its warm side while she read. "I'll see what I can do," he said quietly. "But there will be conditions. Regular checkups, medical examinations, behavior monitoring, and at the first sign of danger, the dragon goes to a secure facility." "Agreed, agreed," Dae-ho said. The days turned into weeks and life found a new rhythm. Labaroviski proved to be remarkably intelligent. The dragon learned to understand Korean within 2 weeks, responding to commands and questions with clear comprehension. Tae-sung, who visited often, taught Labaroviski to understand hand signals. Minji brought toys and games. But it was with Jeanine that Labaroviski formed the deepest bond. The dragon followed the little girl everywhere. When she went to school, Labaroviski would wait by the window until she returned. When she did homework, the dragon would lie beside her desk. When she played in the building's garden, Labaroviski would watch over her like a guardian. At night, Labaroviski slept on a mat next to Jeanine's bed. At first, Hana and Deho were worried about this, but grandmother Sunja insisted it was fine. "The child sleeps better than she has in years," the old woman said. That's all that matters. It was true. Jeanine had always been troubled by nightmares. Bad dreams about her parents being lost in space, about being alone, about dark things she couldn't explain. But with Labaroviski nearby, the nightmares stopped. One night, about 2 months after they returned to Earth, Jeanine had a terrible nightmare. In her dream, she was floating in space, lost and cold. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't find her way home. The stars were spinning around her, and she was so scared. Hana woke to the sound of her daughter crying. She rushed to Jeanine's room and found something amazing. Labaroviski was curled completely around the sleeping child, glowing with a soft, gentle light. The light pulsed in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat, and as Hana watched, Jeanine's crying stopped. Her face relaxed into peace. When Jeanine woke up in the morning, she was smiling. "Mom," she said excitedly, "I had the best dream. I was floating in space, but then Labaroviski came and we flew together through the stars. We saw planets and nebulas and everything was so beautiful. I wasn't scared at all." Hana called her husband, and together they reviewed the bedroom security camera footage from the night before. They watched as Jeanine began having the nightmare. They watched as Labaroviski woke up immediately, clearly sensing the child's distress. And then they watched as the dragon began to glow, and Jeanine's nightmare transformed into something wonderful. "It can enter dreams," Deho said quietly, just like the alien files said. "But it's not controlling them or stealing them. It's protecting them, making them safe." Hana sat down slowly, her mind racing with implications. This is more than we thought. Labaroviski isn't just intelligent. The dragon has abilities that could change everything we understand about consciousness and sleep. That evening, Hyunwoo came for his weekly inspection. Hana showed him the footage. His face grew serious as he watched. "I need to report this," he said. "Report what?" Grandmother Sunja asked. "That the dragon protects my granddaughter's dreams? That it keeps away her nightmares? This is a good thing." "Yes, but it's also an ability that others might want to exploit," Hyunwoo said carefully. "If the wrong people learn about this, they might try to take Labaroviski away." "Then don't tell the wrong people," Deho said firmly. "Your family, Hyunwoo. We trust you to do the right thing." Hyunwoo looked at all of them, then down at his tablet. Slowly, deliberately, he deleted the copy of the footage he had made. "I saw nothing unusual," he said. "Just a dragon sleeping next to a child. That's all that goes in my report." That night, Jeanine asked Labaroviski a question as they got ready for bed. "Will you always protect my dreams?" The dragon made its wind chime sound and nuzzled her hand. Jeanine took that as a yes. She climbed into bed and Labaroviski curled up on the mat beside her. "I love you, Labaroviski," Jeanine whispered as her eyes grew heavy. The dragon's eyes glowed softly in the darkness, all 6 of them watching over the sleeping child. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like stars. Inside the room, a girl and her dragon guardian rested safely together. Neither of them knew that far out in space, something evil had noticed the dragon's psychic signature, something that had been hunting Labaroviski's kind for a long time, something that was now planning to come to Earth. But for tonight, all was peaceful. For tonight, dreams were safe. 6 months after Labaroviski came to live with the Kim family, strange things began happening in Seoul. Children across the city started waking up screaming from nightmares. Not normal nightmares, but all the same nightmare. Dark figures with too many arms and eyes that glowed red. Voices asking questions in a language the children couldn't understand, but somehow they knew what the voices wanted. They wanted to know about the dragon. At first, nobody connected the nightmares together. Then a teacher at Jeanine's school noticed that 12 children in different classes had reported the exact same dream. She called the parents. The parents called doctors. The doctors called the government. Jeanine told her parents about her own experience. "Labaroviski wakes me up every night now," she said at breakfast one morning. "The dragon stands by my bed and glows, like standing guard against something. I can feel that something bad is trying to come into my dreams, but Labaroviski keeps it away." Hana and Deho exchanged worried looks. That same afternoon, a woman in a dark suit appeared at their apartment door. She showed them identification that said her name was Agent Boromune, and she worked for Earth's Intelligence Division. "May I come in?" she asked, and it wasn't really a question. They sat in the living room while Labaroviski watched the stranger with all 6 eyes. The dragon stayed close to Jeanine, who had been called home early from school. Agent Borum studied the dragon carefully before speaking. "We've detected unusual communications in orbit around Earth," she began. "Encrypted signals that we can't decode, but we know they're searching for something. Our best analysts believe they're looking for your dragon." "Who's looking?" Deho asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. "We call them Dreamweavers," Agent Borum said. "They're an alien civilization we've only recently learned about. They're predators, but not in the usual sense. They don't destroy planets or kill populations. They do something worse. They invade dreams and control minds." Hana felt cold. "And they want Labaroviski because dragons like Labaroviski can navigate dream space naturally," Agent Borum finished. "The Dreamweavers have been hunting this species for generations, trying to enslave them, force them to be tools for psychic espionage and control." Jeanine hugged Labaroviski tightly. "They can't have my dragon. Labaroviski is family." Agent Borum's expression softened slightly. "We don't intend to let them take the dragon, child. But you need to understand the danger. These beings can attack through dreams. They're using children's nightmares right now, trying to find Labaroviski's exact location, and once they do, they'll come." "Then we fight," Deho said simply. "We will," said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a man in a military uniform. He was tall and stern-looking, with silver hair and hard eyes. "I'm Admiral Jinsu Quan, Earth Defense Fleet. As of now, this family is under military protection." Soldiers moved into the building that very day. Not obvious ones, but Deho could spot them. People sitting in cars that never left. Maintenance workers who watched the windows too carefully. The building's security suddenly became much more serious about checking visitors. Yunwu arrived with a team of xenobiologists and psychologists. They needed to understand exactly what Labaroviski could do and how the Dreamweavers might try to attack. Grandmother Sunja made tea for everyone, acting as if having soldiers and scientists in her home was completely normal. "The dragon has been protecting Jeanine's dreams," Hana explained to the team, "but we don't fully understand how." "Let me try to explain what we've learned about dream space," said a woman with wild hair and excited eyes. She introduced herself as Dr. Youngmi Shin, a specialist in consciousness research. Most species experience dreams as random images, but some species, like Labaroviski's kind, can actually move through dream space. Think of it like swimming through water, except the water is made of thoughts and memories. "And the Dreamweavers?" Deho asked. "They learned how to invade that space," Dr. Youngmi said, her expression growing dark. "They can enter other beings' dreams and plant suggestions, steal secrets, or even control actions. They've used this ability to conquer dozens of civilizations without ever firing a weapon." Jeanine raised her hand like she was in school. "But why can't they get into my dreams?" "Labaroviski stops them." Dr. Youngmi smiled at her. "That's the million-credit question. We think Labaroviski's species evolved as natural guardians. They protect dream space from predators. But there's something else. Something we didn't expect." She pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans. "We've been studying human consciousness, and we found something fascinating. Human dreams are chaotic, completely unpredictable. Most alien species dream in patterns, but humans dream in organized chaos, and that chaos is apparently very difficult for the Dreamweavers to navigate or control. So humans are naturally resistant?" Hana asked. "To some degree, yes. But children like Jeanine, with their wild imaginations and creativity, are even more resistant. And when you combine that with Labaroviski's protection abilities," Dr. Youngmi grinned, "you get something that makes the Dreamweavers very frustrated." That night, the attack came. It started with all the children in the Soul Arcology having nightmares at exactly the same time. Thousands of children, all screaming, all trapped in the same terrible dream. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Parents panicked. Hospitals filled with crying kids who couldn't wake up. In the Kim apartment, Jeanine was sleeping peacefully. Labaroviski stood guard beside her bed, glowing brighter than ever before. The dragon's eyes blazed with light and its scales rippled with color. In her dream, Jeanine stood in a dark space filled with red eyes. The Dreamweavers surrounded her, reaching with shadow arms. They whispered in her mind, asking questions, demanding to know where the dragon was. But Jeanine wasn't scared. She could feel Labaroviski there with her, a warm presence in the darkness. And she could feel something else too, a strength inside herself that she didn't know she had. "You can't have my dragon," she said to the shadow creatures. "And you can't have me." She imagined her bedroom safe and warm. She imagined her parents and grandmother. She imagined all the good dreams she'd ever had. And as she did, the darkness began to crack and break. Labaroviski's presence grew stronger, amplified by Jeanine's imagination. Together, girl and dragon pushed back against the Dreamweaver's attack. But Jeanine felt something else too. Other children trapped in the nightmare, scared and alone. "We have to help them," she said to Labaroviski. The dragon understood. Together they reached out through dream space. They couldn't reach all the children, but they reached dozens. They pulled them into a safe dream, a shared space where monsters couldn't follow. A dream of a beautiful garden where children could play and be protected. In the physical world, doctors and parents watched in amazement as children across the city suddenly stopped screaming. Not all of them, but enough to make a difference. Those children began describing the same new dream. A garden with a rainbow dragon that protected them. Agent Borum burst into the Kim apartment with her weapon drawn, expecting an attack. Instead, she found Jeanine sleeping peacefully with Labaroviski glowing beside her. The dragon looked exhausted but victorious. When Jeanine woke up, she was tired but smiling. "We stopped them," she said. "Labaroviski and me together. We saved the other kids." Dr. Youngmi was called immediately to analyze what happened. After hours of interviews and tests, she came to an amazing conclusion. Jeanine and Labaroviski created a psychic network. The dragon's defensive abilities combined with the child's imagination made a shield that protected not just Jeanine, but other children too. Admiral Jin Su-Quan looked at the sleeping dragon with new respect. And this worked because humans are naturally resistant to psychic control? More than that, Dr. Youngmi said excitedly. It worked because human consciousness, especially childhood imagination, is so chaotic and creative that it can't be predicted or controlled. When you combine that with Labaroviski's natural abilities, you create something the Dreamweavers have never encountered, a defense they can't break through. The Dreamweavers retreated, Agent Borum reported. Our satellites tracked their ships moving away from Earth orbit. But this isn't over. They'll be back. "Let them come," Deho said, holding his daughter close. "We'll be ready." Jeanine yawned and snuggled against her father. Labaroviski limped over and laid its head in her lap. The dragon was tired from the battle in dream space, but content. The little girl stroked its scales gently. "Good dragon," she whispered. "Best friend." Across the city, children were waking up and telling their parents about the rainbow dragon that saved them from nightmares. They drew pictures of it. They asked if they could meet it. Some of them reported still being able to feel its protection in their dreams. Grandmother Sunja brought tea and rice cakes to everyone in the apartment. "In the old stories," she said, "guardians always found those who needed protection, and those who needed protection always found guardians. This is how it should be." That night, as Jeanine slept safely with Labaroviski watching over her, scientists and military leaders met to discuss what happened. They realized something important. Humanity had stumbled onto a weapon against the Dreamweavers, not a weapon of violence, but one of protection and creativity. The question now was what to do with this knowledge. How could they help other children? How could they prepare for when the Dreamweavers returned? And most importantly, were there more dragons like Labaroviski out there waiting to be rescued? Far away in space on a dark ship, the Dreamweavers were asking themselves the same questions. They had never been defeated like this before. The human child and the dragon had done something impossible, created a shield from pure imagination and will. They would study this. They would learn, and they would return. But so would humanity, because now Earth knew the truth. Dreams could be battlefields, and in those battles humans had an advantage nobody expected. They dreamed in ways that couldn't be controlled, in patterns that couldn't be predicted, with an imagination that couldn't be contained, and they had dragons to help them. After the attack, everything changed. Scientists from across Earth arrived in Seoul to study what happened. They wanted to understand how Jeanine and Labaroviski created their shield in dream space. They wanted to know if other humans could learn to do the same thing. Dr. Youngmi Shin led the research team. She set up her equipment in a special facility built just for this purpose, but she insisted that Jeanine and Labaroviski only come when they wanted to. They're not experiments, she told the military officers who wanted constant testing. They're people. They get to choose. Jeanine actually enjoyed the visits. Dr. Youngmi made everything fun, turning tests into games. She would ask Jeanine to imagine different things while machines measured her brain activity. Labaroviski would sit beside the girl the whole time, glowing softly. Your brain does something amazing when you imagine, Dr. Youngmi explained one day, showing Jeanine colorful pictures on a screen. See these patterns? Most adults have organized patterns, but yours jump all over the place. You think in stories and pictures and feelings all mixed together. Is that bad? Jeanine asked, worried. Bad? Dr. Youngmi laughed. It's wonderful. It's exactly what makes you special. Your imagination is so wild and creative that nothing can predict what you'll think of next. Not even super-intelligent alien computers. They discovered something even more interesting. When Jeanine and Labaroviski were together, both of their brain patterns changed. They synchronized like two musicians playing the same song, but instead of becoming the same, they made each other stronger. Jeanine's chaos gave Labaroviski more power. Labaroviski's control gave Jeanine more focus. It's a perfect partnership, Dr. Youngmi said in her report to Admiral Jin Soo-kwon. Separately, both are impressive. Together, they're nearly impossible to defeat in dream space. News of what happened spread across human space. On Mars colony, on the moon, on the space stations orbiting Jupiter, people heard about the girl and her dragon who defeated an alien attack. Captain Daeho's sister, Yoonji Kim, sent a video message from Mars. Everyone here is talking about Jeanine, Yoonji said, her face smiling on the screen. She's a hero. But that's not all. We've been contacted by other alien species, good ones who've been hiding from the Dreamweavers for years. They want to help us. This was huge news. Suddenly, Earth wasn't alone. Other civilizations reached out, sharing what they knew about the Dreamweavers. The picture they painted was terrifying. The Dreamweavers had been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years, enslaving species after species through mind control. But they had never encountered humans before. And they had certainly never encountered a species that was naturally resistant to their main weapon. We're getting messages from refugees, Agent Borum reported in a meeting at the Kim apartment. She had become a regular visitor, almost like family. Species that escaped Dreamweaver control. They say humans are the first ones who've ever fought back successfully. What do they want from us? Daeho asked. Hope, Borum said simply. They want to know if we can teach them how to resist. They want to know if there are more dragons like Labaroviski who can be saved. That last part caught everyone's attention. Labaroviski's ears perked up at the sound of its name. The dragon had been growing steadily, now about the size of a large wolf. Its wings were finally big enough for short flights around the apartment, much to grandmother Soonja's dismay when things got knocked over. Are there more dragons? Jeanine asked, looking at Labaroviski with hope in her eyes. Is Labaroviski's family still alive? We think so, Borum said carefully. The alien ship where you found Labaroviski was a research station. The Dreamweavers have been capturing this dragon species for centuries, using them as tools. If there was one dragon there, there are probably more at other facilities. Then we have to save them, Jeanine said immediately. They must be so scared and lonely. It's not that simple, Admiral Jin Soo-kwon said. He had started joining these meetings too. We'd have to go deep into Dreamweaver territory. It would be dangerous. Everything worth doing is dangerous, Grandmother Soonja said, pouring more tea. My son and daughter-in-law flew into an asteroid field to save one dragon. Why should saving more be any different? Daeho smiled at his mother. Then he looked at Hana. They didn't need to speak. After so many years together, they could read each other's thoughts. They both nodded. We'll go, Daeho said. The Cheonsa's Hope and her crew. We know what to look for. We know how to handle the dragons. I'm coming too, said Minji Choi, who had been listening from the doorway. The young pilot had been visiting every day since they returned to Earth. You need the best pilot for a mission like this. That's me. And me, added Taesung Lee, appearing behind Minji. Someone needs to keep the ship running. Admiral Jin Soo-kwon studied them all carefully. This would be a military operation. You'd be going in with armed support. But I need people who understand the dragons, who can communicate with them. You're right for this mission. Commander Sang-woo Choi, who was Minji's father and a famous military strategist, had a different idea. "We shouldn't just rescue dragons," he said. "We should build something bigger. A defensive network. Humans paired with dragons, protecting our colonies and space stations from Dreamweaver attacks." This led to more meetings, more planning. Dr. Young Mi began a program to train other children in conscious dreaming. Not to attack, but to defend. Parents brought their kids willingly, wanting them to learn how to protect their own dreams. Jeanine and Labaroviski became teachers. Jeanine, only 8 years old now, would explain to other kids how she imagined safe spaces in her dreams. Labaroviski would demonstrate by creating gentle, peaceful dreams that the children could feel. One boy named Junho Lee became Jeanine's best friend during these sessions. He was shy and quiet, but his imagination was even wilder than Jeanine's. When he closed his eyes and dreamed, he created whole worlds of fantasy. Castles floating in clouds, dragons made of starlight, oceans that float upward into the sky. "You're really good at this," Jeanine told him after one session. Junho blushed. "My dad always said I daydream too much. But Dr. Youngmi says it's a superpower now." "It is," Jeanine said firmly. "Imagination is the best superpower." While the children trained, the adults prepared for the rescue mission. Captain Deho and his crew got the Cheonsa's Hope ready for deep space travel. This time, they would be going much farther than the asteroid fields. They would be entering truly dangerous territory. Yunwoo used his government contacts to gather intelligence about Dreamweaver facilities. They found one that was relatively close, only 3 months' travel away. According to the reports from freed aliens, this facility held 17 dragons and other psychic species. The night before the mission launched, Jeanine couldn't sleep. Not because of nightmares, but because she was worried. She sat in bed with Labaroviski curled around her. "You're going to meet your family," she whispered to the dragon. "That's good, right? You've been alone for so long." Labaroviski made a soft chiming sound and nuzzled her face. The dragon's eyes glowed with emotion that Jeanine could somehow understand. Labaroviski was excited but also scared. What if the other dragons didn't remember? What if they had been hurt too badly? What if they couldn't be saved? At the Seoul spaceport, Jeanine held grandmother Sunja's hand and watched her parents' ship disappear into the sky. Labaroviski pressed against her side, offering comfort. "They'll come back," grandmother Sunja said. "I know," Jeanine said. "And when they do, Labaroviski will have brothers and sisters. We'll have a whole family of dragons." That night, Jeanine had a dream. She was flying through space with Labaroviski, and they weren't alone. Other dragons flew beside them, all different colors and sizes. Behind them flew thousands of children protected by their dragon guardians. And ahead of them, the stars shone bright with possibility. When she woke up, she knew it wasn't just a dream. It was a vision of what could be. What would be? Because humans had learned something important. They had learned that the greatest strength wasn't in weapons or technology or even psychic powers. The greatest strength was in choosing to protect instead of conquer, in using imagination to create instead of destroy, in turning fear into hope and loneliness into family. The Dreamweavers had made one terrible mistake. They thought humans were weak because they couldn't control dreams like other species. But humans didn't need to control dreams. Humans created dreams. Wild, impossible, beautiful dreams that could change everything. And now, with dragons beside them, humans were about to show the galaxy what that really meant. The journey to the Dreamweaver facility took 3 months, just as predicted. During that time, the crew of the Cheonsa's Hope prepared for what they might find. They studied everything the freed alien refugees had told them about how the facilities worked. They practiced rescue procedures over and over. A new person joined their mission halfway through. His name was Minseo Park, and he came from a species that looked almost human except for his silver eyes. His people had been slaves to the Dreamweavers for 200 years before they managed to break free 5 years ago. "The Dreamweavers are not all the same," Minseo explained to Captain Deho. They were sitting in the ship's cafeteria drinking coffee. Most of them believe enslaving others is their right. But some of them are starting to question this. They call themselves the Questioning. "Can we trust them?" Deho asked. Minseo shrugged. "Trust? No, but they might not stop you if you try to free the prisoners. They're curious about humans, about what makes you different." On Earth, Jeanine was learning more about her abilities with Dr. Young Mi. Every night, she would sleep with special equipment monitoring her brain. And every night, She would enter the dream space with Labaroviski and practice building defenses. But she was doing something else too, something she hadn't told anyone yet. In her dreams, she could feel the other dragons, the ones far away in the Dreamweaver facility. She could sense their fear and loneliness, and sometimes, very faintly, she could send them feelings of hope and comfort. One night, Junho came over for a sleepover. The two children lay in their sleeping bags while Labaroviski watched over them both. Jeanine decided to share her secret. "I can feel them," she whispered. "The dragons my parents are going to save. I talk to them in my dreams." "Really?" Junho's eyes went wide. "What do you tell them?" "That help is coming. That they won't be alone anymore. That there are people who care about them." That night, both children fell asleep and entered the same dream. Jeanine guided Junho through the dream space, showing him how to sense the distant dragons. Together, they sent waves of encouragement across the stars. In the Dreamweaver facility, 17 dragons lay in crystal cages, their minds trapped in a psychic web. They had been prisoners for so long that most had forgotten what freedom felt like. But that night, something new touched their consciousness. Two human children, impossibly far away, reaching out with pure kindness and hope. One of the younger dragons, barely bigger than Labaroviski had been when rescued, felt the touch most clearly. Hope. It was such a strange feeling after so long in darkness. Meanwhile, the rescue fleet arrived at the facility. It was a massive structure floating in space, shaped like a spiral shell. Bioscans showed thousands of life forms inside. Most were Dreamweavers, but some were prisoners. "We need a distraction," Admiral Jin Suquan said over the communication channel. "Something to keep their attention while the rescue team gets inside." "I have an idea," said Seokjin Nam, one of the elite pilots who had joined the mission. "What if we make them think we're here to attack? Draw all their forces to one side of the station while you sneak in the other side." It was risky, but it could work. The military ships began firing warning shots at the facility, getting close but not actually trying to destroy anything. As predicted, Dreamweaver defense ships swarmed out to meet them. While the battle raged as a distraction, the Cheonce's Hope slipped in through a maintenance entrance. Captain Daeho led the team inside. Hana, Taesung, Minji, Minseo, and 6 soldiers trained in alien facility operations. Inside the facility was like a nightmare. The walls were organic, pulsing like living tissue. Strange lights flickered in patterns that hurt to look at. And everywhere there were cells. Thousands of cells holding creatures from across the galaxy, all trapped and used for their psychic abilities. The dragons should be in the deep core, Minseo guided them. That's where they keep the most valuable prisoners. They moved through the corridors quietly, avoiding Dreamweaver guards. When they did encounter resistance, they were surprised. Some guards fought, but others simply stood aside and let them pass. "The questioning," Minseo whispered. "They're helping us." Finally, they reached the chamber where the dragons were held. 17 crystal cages, each containing a dragon in various sizes. Some were as big as horses. Some were small, like Labaroviski had been. All of them looked tired and hurt. Hana's heart broke seeing them. "We're here to help," she said softly, even though she didn't know if they could understand. "We're taking you home." Taesung worked on the controls of the cages while the soldiers kept watch. One by one, the crystals dissolved. The dragons stumbled out, weak from captivity. The youngest dragon, the one who had felt Jeanine's dream message, limped straight to Hana. Its scales were dull, and one wing was broken, but its eyes were full of hope. Hana knelt down and the dragon pressed against her, making a sound like Labaroviski's wind chimes, but sadder. "I know," Hana whispered, tears running down her face. "I know it hurt, but you're safe now. We've got you." Then something unexpected happened. One of the older dragons, its scales the color of deep space, suddenly became alert. Its eyes focused on something behind them. A Dreamweaver had entered the chamber, but this Dreamweaver was different. It held up its multiple arms in what might have been a peaceful gesture. Through a translation device, it spoke. "I am one of the questioning. We did not know that slaves could love their masters enough to risk death for them. We did not know that prey could become protectors. The human child showed us this. What are you talking about?" Daeho demanded, his weapon ready. "The child who dreams with your dragon," the Dreamweaver said. "She reached into the mind of our overseer during the last attack. She showed him memories of love and family and choice. These concepts are foreign to us. We have always taken what we needed." We did not understand that freely given cooperation could be stronger than forced slavery. Back on Earth at that exact moment, Jeanine woke up screaming. But not from a nightmare. From a vision. She saw her parents in danger, saw the dragons being freed, saw the Dreamweaver making a choice. Labaroviski glowed brightly, and suddenly, Jeanine's consciousness was in two places at once. Part of her was in her bedroom with Junho and Labaroviski, but part of her was in that distant facility, seeing through the eyes of the young dragon her mother was holding. Mom, her voice echoed through dream space, reaching Hana. Mom, it's okay. They're not all bad. Some of them want to change. Hana heard her daughter's voice in her mind and nearly fell over in shock. The young dragon she was holding began to glow, acting as a conduit for Jeanine's consciousness across the stars. The Dreamweaver who had entered the chamber made a sound that might have been surprise. The child is here? Across such distance? This should be impossible. Humans are pretty good at doing impossible things, Deho said with a slight smile. Through the young dragon, Jeanine spoke to the Dreamweaver. Her voice was young but firm. You don't have to be bad guys. You can choose to be good. You can choose to help instead of hurt. The Dreamweaver was silent for a long moment. Finally, it spoke. We will consider this. Take the dragons. We will not stop you, and we will begin the questioning of all our ways. The rescue team made it back to the ship with all 17 dragons. The military fleet stopped their distraction battle and everyone prepared to leave. But as they departed, they received a transmission. It came from a faction within the Dreamweaver civilization. They called themselves the Questioning, and they had made a decision. They would release all their prisoners over the next year. They would stop enslaving other species. They would learn to cooperate instead of dominate. Why? Admiral Jinsu Kwan asked over the communication channel. Because a human child showed us that love is stronger than control, came the reply. Because we saw a baby dragon and a young girl create something we never thought possible, a perfect partnership of choice, not slavery. We want to learn how to be worthy of such partnerships. The journey home took another 3 months. During that time, the dragons healed. Hana and Taisung worked to fix broken wings and nurse them back to health. The dragons were scared at first, not understanding that humans were trying to help, but slowly trust grew. The young dragon that Jeanine had connected with refused to leave Hana's side. It followed her everywhere, just like Labaroviski had followed Deho and Hana when they first rescued it. When the ships finally arrived back at Earth, a celebration was waiting. Thousands of people gathered at the Seoul spaceport, and at the front of the crowd holding Labaroviski's collar was Jeanine. The moment the ship landed and the door opened, Labaroviski broke free and flew into the ship. The dragon hadn't seen its own kind in so long. The reunion was beautiful and heartbreaking. 17 dragons surrounded Labaroviski, touching noses, making wind chime sounds that echoed like a song. Then Labaroviski led them all down the ramp to where Jeanine was waiting. The young dragon that had bonded with Hana ran straight to the little girl and curled around her feet, just like Labaroviski always did. Hello, Jeanine said, kneeling down. I'm Jeanine. I'm the one who talked to you in your dreams. The young dragon made a happy sound and nuzzled her hand. Over the next months, each dragon found a family. Some went to families with children who had been training in dream defense. Some went to the moon, to Mars, to the space stations. Each one became a guardian, protecting human dreams from nightmares and psychic attacks. But 3 of them stayed with the Kim family. Labaroviski, of course, the young dragon that Jeanine had connected with, who she named Moonbeam, and an older dragon named Starfire who bonded with Grandmother Sunja, much to everyone's surprise. I'm too old for this, Grandmother Sunja grumbled, but everyone could see her smiling as Starfire followed her around the apartment, helping her cook and garden. A year after the rescue, the galaxy had changed. The Dreamweaver's empire was collapsing peacefully as the Questioning freed more and more prisoners. Other species that had been enslaved were learning from humans about the strength of cooperation and choice. A new alliance formed. Dozens of species, including reformed Dreamweavers from the Questioning, came together to share knowledge and protect each other. They called it the Dream Alliance. And at its center were humans and dragons, showing everyone what true partnership looked like. Jeanine was 9 years old now, and she had become something special. A bridge between humans and dragons, between different species, between the physical world and dream space. She split her time between being a normal kid who went to school and played with Junho, and being a teacher who helped other children learn to protect their dreams. Every night, Labaroviski and Moonbeam would curl up on either side of her bed while Starfire watched from the doorway. 3 dragons guarding one little girl's dreams. But Jeanine didn't need much guarding anymore. She had learned to defend her own dreams, to shape them into anything she wanted. Sometimes she would dream of flying through space with her dragons. Sometimes she would dream of her parents, proud and smiling. Sometimes she would dream of the future, when humans and dragons would explore the galaxy together as friends. One night, as Jeanine was falling asleep, she asked Labaroviski the question that had been in her heart since the beginning. "Why do you guard my dreams every night? Even when there's no danger?" Labaroviski's answer came not in words but in feelings that flowed through dream space. "Because you saved me. Because you loved me when I was alone. Because protecting you is not a duty, it's a joy. Because your family." Jeanine smiled and closed her eyes. "Your family too. All of you. Forever." In the dream space, Jeanine and her 3 dragons flew through impossible landscapes of imagination. Stars that sang, oceans that floated, mountains made of clouds, everything beautiful and safe and free. And far across the galaxy, other children slept safely with their own dragon guardians, a network of protection and love that stretched across the stars. Dreamweavers who had joined the questioning would sometimes watch this network in wonder, still learning to understand how something built on choice and affection could be so much stronger than anything built on force and control. Captain Deho and Dr. Hana stood in their daughter's doorway, watching her sleep peacefully surrounded by dragons. They held hands and smiled. "We changed the galaxy," Deho whispered. "No," Hana corrected gently. "Our daughter and her dragon changed the galaxy. We just gave them the chance." In her dreams, Jeanine heard her parents and laughed. She sent them a dream image of all of them together. Parents, grandmother, dragons, and friends all flying through a galaxy full of hope and wonder. Because that's what humans did best. They dreamed impossible dreams. They loved impossibly deeply. They protected impossibly fiercely. And when they found friends who needed them, they never ever gave up. The Dreamweavers had learned this the hard way. You could conquer minds, but you couldn't conquer hearts. You could control dreams, but you couldn't destroy hope. And you definitely couldn't defeat a species whose greatest weapon was their ability to imagine a better world, and then fight to make it real. That's why Labaroviski guarded Jeanine's dreams every night. Not because the child needed it anymore, but because the dragon wanted to. Because love isn't about need, it's about choice. And every night the dragon chose to protect the girl who had shown the galaxy what humanity was really made of. Courage, kindness, creativity, and dreams that could change everything.